Hello, tubers! Back in the 90s, I picked up a 76 Chevy Nova and thought I'd share the restoration with you. So I ended up with this car. A local car lot owner had a Volkswagen with that Bosch CIS injection system that was messed up, and I had to do some work on it for him. I've seen this car sitting out in back along with that MG that you might have seen on my other video that we used parts off of for the go-kart, and asked him if we could just trade the cars for the work that I did, and he says sure. He had the engine apart already, took the heads off, took them down to a local machine shop to get the valves ground. And about the only other thing done to the engine was put a high volume oil pump in it. Even though the car was pretty rough, what I liked about it was a true SS and everything was all original. Note that dent in the passenger side door. Well, one Friday night we had a get together out here, and some friends stopped in with a few new people along. At the time I had the car sitting out in back next to the chicken coop. Well, one guy come in from out back and told me that's my brother's old car. So he commenced to telling me how every dent got in the car, including the one on that passenger's door, and said they had the door open and backed past the snowbank in the winter, and that's how that came about. Kind of funny here too, somebody wrote on the roof, gas, grass, or ass, nobody rides for free. Well, he even knew which one of his brother's friends put that on there. My friend John is doing the sandblasting here. Whenever he had some spare time, he'd stop in, give me a hand on things. Couldn't ever give him much for what he always did. So I talked it over with the girlfriend, and we had that blue 66 Impala Super Sport. You'll see later in the video. Anyway, we just gave him that car. Yeah, it did need a restoration. It sure ran great, and oh, he was real happy about that.
Hi, Brad.
After the bad areas and the quarters were cut off, we took the car back out to touch up the areas that we couldn't previously get at. On the left there, you'll see a homemade metal bender.
Hi folks, I'm going to turn this piece of cardboard here into a rear panel.
The yellow clamp you see on the top up there is pulled down by two air cylinders. Picked them up from a local iron salvage yard and rebuilt them.
Press the little change-o. Something to do. Finally getting somewhere. Okay, we want to give you a shot at a car here. John's fine sandblast job he did for us.
Got the seam sealer and all the joints on the inside floor. Here's a peek at where we made some new rear frame rails. All the front end chassis components were replaced several years prior to this project. I'll take a few more parts off here and give it another touch up with the sandblaster, and it should be ready for paint.
A little tour here. Here's some of our panels that we replaced. Patterns.
Hey tubers, got a little something I wanted to show you here where you really don't need even a metal bender to do so much of this stuff. Well, on that scissors lift I have, I wanted to make a roll-out extension deck for it. Well, if one has a steel workbench with a straight edge, you can clamp your material to that bench, work the material back and forth with a rubber hammer, and voila, end up with a perfectly bent piece of tin. After the subframe was primed, it was topped off with a couple coats of PPG urethane black. All the parts had been primed with epoxy primer, for those of you who might be interested. It's always a nice feeling when you start to put the paint on, because you know you're not too far away from where you finally get the project done and get your ride. And what you're seeing here is just the base coat. The clear has not been applied yet. Surprisingly, the doors weren't in too bad a shape. I just had to make new bottoms for them and then found the dents out. The white stuff you see on them is a fill prime, which gets out minor imperfections. I stuck with the same colors the car was new and also the same striping scheme. Here you see the base white on. And finally, the clear is on. I left the dates on the video so some of you folks can see how long it took to put this together. We always work on this stuff too, late at night, even on the weekends, and whenever we got a chance to. That way, they get done a lot sooner. It's nice when you get the rear end and a subframe in where you can roll a car around on its own wheels instead of needing a floor jack. Here we're refurbishing all the wiring harnesses. I don't know why, but for some reason, electrical stuff, that's always my favorite part. The front fenders came right from GM. Back then all that stuff was readily available and not too costly either. After test fitting the fenders and the doors, then I hang everything and paint it. That way there's no overspray on any single part on the car. And makes for a little nicer job, I think, too. All the weather stripping's been replaced. Not on the interior of the car, on the inside panels. I put some insulation on them. That helps in sound deadening the car, give it a little more of today's car standards. Window tint's real easy to do when you got the glass out laying on the bench. Imagine them people, though, that do it for a living, probably really don't matter much. Here's a look at some of the cars I used to work on back then. That Camaro right there was one of the full restos that was done here. A couple of the things the car didn't have originally that I did add was I put the GM cruise control in it, which it's the one button one from the factory, and the steering column. And back then I used to build some bulletproof 700R4 automatic overdrive transmissions. So a guy that I built one for was selling the car it was in. So I actually purchased the car to get that tranny back to put it in this one. And then my friend John wanted that car for himself. So, long story short, it was a win-win for everyone. Something about I like the challenge, I guess. Take something that somebody else was going to junk or throw out and bring it back to life and make it dependable and presentable. The very best part of this project was didn't have to stick a real lot of money in it, just more so one's time. I hope you enjoyed the video. Ask a question, leave a comment. Hope to catch you back here again soon.